G'day everyone, Prep Aussie here. I hope you're all well in whatever part of the world you're watching this video. Today is Friday the 11th of May 2018 and the time here is 13:15 PM Australian Eastern Standard Time. Well, it just seems like every day lately there is something incredibly new and incredibly significant going on. It must be amazing working in news companies at the moment because because everything that is happening, Trump bringing hostages home, war in the Middle East, the world economy. It's just, there's so much to keep track of. It's actually very hard to keep track of it all because you just can't. It's just not physically possible unless you're 24/7. Which I'm not. So but let's get the usual stuff out of the way, folks, first. This is all my Prep Aussie email. Don't forget, I am no longer on Gmail. If you've sent me mail on Gmail, I will not be responding to it, because of all the bugs and viruses and crap that are on it. You can send me mail to prepaussie@protonmail.com. My PayPal account is prepaussie@gmail.com. That will also be changing soon. I'll let you know when. And obviously my Patreon page is just simply Prep Aussie. Thank you to all those who have donated. It is much appreciated by me. Because it keeps me going just a little bit longer, and that's obviously important because it is hard to do this, folks, to be honest. It's not easy. You've got to spend a lot of time and effort doing it. Well, folks, you haven't got double vision. This is my my post from yesterday, and one thing I wanted to say to everyone was thanks very much for all the comments. They're greatly appreciated. I try to get to all of them, but obviously if there's way too many, then I just can't. It's not physically possible. I get some really lovely stuff sent to me, and it really does mean so much to have people's blessings and support, One thing I wanted to read. One thing I wanted to say, though, out of all the comments, is that, and this is really important, folks, everyone needs to understand this. QAnon recently said, where we go one, we go all, and, we are one. And, that might sound a bit frivolous and a bit flippant, but look, in all honesty, folks, and you have to understand this, there's no physical way for one person to take all this on. It's just not. You could try, and I think we all know people that have tried, and they've always either ended up in jail, dead, or complete nut jobs. Take Alex Jones, for example. 10 years ago, Alex Jones was a nut job. You remember all we used to go, Alex Jones, he's a weirdo. We're not laughing anymore, and no one's laughing at him anymore. Have a think about that. But my point here is that we can pray, we can do whatever we want personally, but as I've always said from day one, and the point here is I'm getting to Trump. As I've said from day one, you cannot do this on your own. And the whole purpose of me doing this is to try and help build communities. A community. Now, you might note that I didn't say you have to be of a religious personality to be in this group, because I don't care who you are. If you've got a half decent respect for your fellow human beings, then quite frankly, join the club. But if you haven't, then quite frankly, don't bother. It's as simple as that. I don't want to listen to your rhetoric, and you don't want to listen to mine. But where I'm going to with this with Trump is, you'd have to be some sort of deluded fool to believe that Donald Trump, who was worth $7 billion or something, woke up one day with all his businesses and money and everything else at 72 years of age, I believe he is now, isn't he? And went, I know, Melania, I'm going to run for the president. Well, that doesn't happen like that. You know, with this movement, you have to have some faith in a couple of things. And one of them's got to be someone who's going to stand up and speak for all of us. Because, and who's going to make that movement push together. Now, Trump wasn't put there because he was the second best person to do this. And he's obviously taken a lot of instructions from people to actually do this. Now, listen, right or wrong, whether he's bombed Syria, done other things, in my mind, so far, he hasn't done too much wrong. And listen, on that Syria bombing, the latest bombing that he did in Syria, you actually had to listen to the fine print to understand that it was all a load of bullshit, by the way. Apparently it was all said and done on a Friday. They started at 7 at night and they finished at, I don't know, 12. Wasn't even that long, I don't think. And from memory, and I've done a lot of research and I've tried to scroll through everything, I can't find anything except one picture of a dilapidated building that got blown apart. That was the chemical factory, the said chemical factory. So tell me how they dropped 160 bombs in such a short space of time. Plus they were flying from Cyprus to Syria. It's just, look, the facts and figures don't add up. And there was something extremely devious about the whole thing in regards to the Russians also knew where they were bombing and everything else, because no one died. There was no deaths, as far as I know. I can't remember, might have been one. Look, insignificant for the numbers of bombs that got dropped. So have you asked yourself, where did they drop the bombs? Because they didn't drop them in Damascus. And if you're dropping bombs from a B-52 bomber or a stealth bomber from 40,000 feet, it doesn't even have to have munitions in it to actually wipe out an entire building just about. So think logically and think along the lines of, how did that all work out then? Because if you actually think about it just a little bit harder than a nanosecond, it really didn't happen. And if it did happen, where's all the pictures of everything they blew up and destroyed, etc., etc.? So there was a little bit of a ruse going on there, folks, if you know what I mean. But I want to show you some other things. Hang on. Did you know last night, because it was hardly on any mainstream media news broadcast anywhere until, and this is the God's honest truth, until Alex Jones broadcast it yesterday afternoon. So InfoWars was actually the first news network to actually broadcast this. So Israel and Syria are in a bombing war at the moment. I don't know if you know that. So they're being pretty, to use the term again, nefarious, the old Iranians. Now, for all those people who say to me, oh yeah, you're a Jew lover and blah, 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 well, yeah, I might be. And as I said, Judeo-Christian principles lead my ethics. But I will also say that I'm not a Zionist collaborator or anything like that. But I do believe in the existence of Israel. You cannot be a Judeo-Christian without believing that. It's impossible to believe. But I don't believe in arse wipes that are running the place, probably. And that goes for everyone. That goes for the Palestinians. Let's be honest, folks. These guys are not. They're not in this for everybody. They're in it for themselves. They're making money and they're doing pretty well for themselves, as far as I can see. And then when things get hot, they push the kids up to the border and they get the shit blown out of them. Yeah, that's really heroic. Not. But my point there is, look, Israel's Israel. I'm convinced that it's always going to be there and is always supposed to have been there. I'm not going to change my mind on that. So please don't write to me and tell me chapter and verse about it, because it's boring me to bloody tears. If you don't believe in Jews being there, then I don't know what else to tell you. But the worrying thing is that Iran is now bombing Israel from Syria. That is dramatic, folks. That's bad. In actual fact, Iran has literally taken over Syria as its second country because they're helping the Syrians. They got thousands and thousands of troops there. I read something the other day, 100,000 or something. They've just overrun the place. So, look, the Iranians can't stand Israel, and they've said they want to kill every single Israeli and or Jew or whatever, and that's not funny, and that's not right. You know what I mean? You don't see the Jews running around saying, "Oh, we're going to wipe Iran off the map." But for some reason, for all those principled people who keep writing to me about the Jews, I'll point out to you that you don't see too many Israeli newspapers saying we're going to wipe out Iran, and you don't see the people in the men in the Iranian parliament, in Israeli parliament, burning Iranian flags, and these are grown men, for Christ's sake. It's pathetic. So I'm going to show you something about Iran at the moment that I just don't get. We're living in the year 2018 here, going to 2020. So you'd think people would have the capabilities to have some form of diplomatic negotiations or just generally know what they're doing, wouldn't you? So Trump announces, let's go through this. Trump announces that he's going to cut the Iranian deal, which is a pile of shit, as everybody knows. And all they've done with the money that Obama gave him was sponsor more terrorism around the world. That's a fact. There's no getting away from that. Everybody knows it. So watch this. This is how these bozos behave. Now, remember, there's no other place in the world. You notice there's no women there, for a start. So that tells you something's wrong anyway. But this is how these bozos react whenever they're confronted with people telling them they can't do it. Oh, we're not letting you get a nuclear bomb. Oh, why not? Because you told us you wanted to kill everyone in Israel. You wanted to wipe Israel off the map. Yeah, well, sorry guys, that's not going to happen. Oh, down with America, blah, blah. Now watch this. I don't know if you can hear the volume. I hope so. It might mirror. Let's see. Now this is in the parliament. This is their parliament.
And the American flag isn't the only thing in tatters now. So is the Iran.
Now, I don't know about you, but I see shit like that and I think, what a pack of wankers. Like, really, seriously, is that how minuscule their thinking is? And we want these people, they want to have a nuclear bomb. Just watch that again. Watch that clip again. These wankers want to have a nuclear bomb. Mind-boggling, isn't it? Well, as you know, there's a lot of things that piss me right off, and this is another one of them. I'm going to show you. Hang on. I'm not sure if everyone knows this turkey here. Sorry, not the Israeli Prime Minister. But this is an interview between Chris Cuomo from CNN in America and Benjamin Netanyahu, who's the Prime Minister of Israel. And folks, honestly, it is so fire-trucking. It made me vomit my own mouth listening to this dickhead. That's how crazy this is. Not Netanyahu, this Chris Cuomo, who's an absolute tool. God, seriously, if that's the best CNN's got, I tell you what, using degrees of separation, if anyone knows Benjamin Netanyahu, tell him I'll give him 1 free hour on here and we'll let him speak and we'll speak the truth. Because he's going to have better coverage on this format talking to me than he is talking to that absolute bozo, Chris Cuomo. And if anyone does know Chris Cuomo, tell him I said he's an absolute wanker for doing that interview, because he was a fool. Absolute fool. You know, honestly, I couldn't believe, please watch the video, I couldn't believe the absolute shite that was coming out of this Chris Cuomo's mouth. Poor old Benjamin Netanyahu is actually sitting there at times shaking his head. And I'll take my hat off to Benjamin Netanyahu. He needs to be praised for not erupting on this bloody idiot. Because of all the dumb interviews I've seen, and he's done a few of these, Chris Cuomo, this has got to be the dumbest interview by a journalist I've seen. He's not a journalist, he's an absolute tool. And we've got a good saying for people like him in Australia. He's an absolute bloody wanker. Seriously. Can't believe it. If you want to be infuriated, watch this interview, because it's just bad. It's really bad. You can see by the expression on his face here, and they haven't even really started. The way he starts this interview off is, Chris, listen, if I can give you one tip, mate. Give up. Because, mate, if you're doing this for money, you're only doing this for money, because you're not doing it because you've got any intelligence. It's quite simple. Bloody shocking. It's really shocking. Anyway. And then you go to Fox, and you know, this is, if you want to watch, and look, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, don't you? You know what I mean? Because, you know, you can't live in an echo chamber. So I try to watch a good, what's the name of each channel, RT, Al Jazeera, CNN if I can stomach it, and Fox News, because Fox News, and InfoWars. Fox News has actually got the best coverage, I think, and they're a little bit left, the conservative right-leaning, which is fine. I don't mind. And I do like that some of their interviews, like Tucker Carlson, for example, is very on the mark, and so is Hannity. But the reason I wanted to bring that up to you is because watch that other bloody idiot, that Cuomo dimwit, and then watch the quality of this particular piece. But the reason I wanted to show you this was because of there's a bit in the middle here. You have to, honestly, folks, how this Chuck Schumer even is still to this day in Parliament in America, just beyond me. I'm hoping this comes through, but if it doesn't, you guys can listen to it at your end.
Schumer, he was less than pleased. Really? 3 Americans saved back home?
You have to hear this to believe it. Honestly, folks, it's that dumb.
The exultation by the president and others of the greatness of North Korea doing this evades me. We can't be fooled into giving the North Korean regime credit for returning Americans that never should have been detained in the first place. American citizens are not diplomatic bargaining chips. Their release should not be exalted, it should be expected. It is no great accomplishment of Kim Jong-un to do this. And when the president does it, he weakens American foreign policy and puts Americans at risk around the world.
Amazing about this, a friend of mine, he's a great doctor, he's a brain surgeon, talked about this earlier, and he said, what a jerk. And this comes from one of the smartest, brightest brain surgeons in the world.
Geez, folks, there's not too many times in life when but geez, wouldn't you just love to kick this guy up the arse, this Schumacher bloke? Schumer, sorry. What an absolute, he's another wanker. What is going on in America? Trump gets 3 guys home from North Korea, and this Schumer is absolutely lambasting him. What a tour. Honestly, what is going on in America? People should be walking up to him and kicking him up the arse, seriously, because he's that dumb. Anyway, here's the last one. And the reason I'm showing you this one is because if you remember this dimwit, who there's no real forgetting because he's such a tool, you can't forget him anyway. Put your earpiece in, Chris, and listen to what say what they're telling you. Don't use your own brain, you moron. And then listen to this one from Fox News. And you can soon see why the Iranian deal is so bad. Because if you actually listen to this clown, he's actually defending the deal. He's actually defending it. And he's defending it because he doesn't want Trump to seem to have won. But what he doesn't realise is there is no winning in this. Why don't people understand that? There is no winning in this. There's no loser and there's no winner. But I know this much, you can't give a bunch of raghead blokes that are running around in our parliament burning the American flag, in the parliament, nuclear bombs. Because they've got a brain the size of a gnat's ass. What is wrong in America at the moment? I just don't get it. I just don't get it. And what's going on in the world, for that matter? Oh, I know it's wrong, but you know, it goes back to what I was saying yesterday. Are we going to let our kids grow up into this shit? Because I know what, I've had it up to here. I've actually had it up to more than that, and that's why I'm doing this. So I don't have to in the future, and my kids don't have to listen to dickheads like Chris Cuomo on CNN with their indoctrinated microphone crap they're being fed in their ear. You know, ironically, I was watching something that he did last week where he was tearing this bloke to pieces about him getting up and walking out of the presidential dinner, the what do you call it, the press dinner or something. You know, that's the sort of shit that I want to stop. This indoctrinated crap where they think that, you know, it's funny to make fun of abortion. It's not funny. And as I said, there's no winners and there's no losers here with nuclear weapons. Everyone knows that Israel's got nuclear weapons. So what? The reason they've got them is so that it's a protection against the dickheads living across the fence who want to actually lob bombs at them all the time. So that they know they're serious and they go, well, you guys, you do that again, you do something serious like that, we're going to go for you. As they do anyway. And mate, I've got no problem with that at all. None. So like I said, if anyone knows Benjamin Netanyahu and wants to come on my show, which is a big stretch, I know, but I'd give him 1 full hour and let him speak the truth and let the truth be spoken from me and him. Because there's some stuff that I'd like to know, that's for sure. And I'm sure people like you in your positions would like to know as well. And Chris, if you're out there listening and you ever get to watch this, I'd be more than happy to come on your show and tell you exactly what you're doing wrong, buddy. Because, mate, you need to get up and have a good look at yourself in the mirror. Seriously. Bloody hell. Well, folks, as always, here is the verse of the day. And I probably don't sound too Christian or anything today because of my language, but I just, you know, there's times when it just winds you up so much, you just can't let certain things pass. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other. So, Chris, I forgive you. Just as in Christ, God forgave you. Sorry, I was being flippant there. Let me read it again. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ, God forgave you. Very, very apt. Isn't this amazing? Every time I read this, it's very apt. Maybe it's tuned into my moods. And as always, folks, the Lord's Prayer. So pray this with me, because if there's one thing I'm starting to realise is that each of us needs to ensure that we're wrapping ourselves with God's Spirit at the moment because of everything that's coming down the pipe. And I know which side I'd rather be on than not. I'll leave the rest up to you, whatever you decide. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. So, folks, I'll leave it there. Sorry for going on a bit of a rant, but like I said, I wish, you know, they said there was smell-o-vision. You know, I wish there was punch-o-vision, because I actually would have punched him if he was standing next to me. You know, he bloody riled me up that much. And I thought, there's just some things you just can't let go, you know what I mean? I'll let it go now. I've had a whine about it, but, you know, as it says, forgiveness is God's mercy, isn't it? Anyway, God bless. Prep out.